Totally happy to have you on. I appreciate you taking time. Um, so you are Sean Douglas. You are in the Air Force. So here's the deal, man. Here's a couple things that I want to talk about today. You are still active
Yes.
duty, right? Awesome. I love it. You are a husband, a
Hmm.
father, got the family going.
Yep.
You love to speak. You love to inspire others,
Yep.
help people figure out their personal meaning and mission in life and that kind of stuff,
Yep.
right? Which is a big reason why I asked you to visit with me today. After the military, which someday you will find out when you exit the military, there's the transition. And for a lot of guys, me included, I had a hard time figuring out what I wanted to do after the military. And it wasn't so much that there wasn't things to do. It was more about being challenged at the level that I knew I needed to be challenged at, and operating at the level that I knew I was
Hmm.
capable of, and those kind of things. And so I love your message because you help people do that anyway, inside the military or outside the
Right.
military. And so it was just perfect. So with that in mind, those are just basically what we'll talk about today. But so you're still in the Air Force. Where are you at?
I'm at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base in Goldsboro, North Carolina.
Nice, nice. And what do you do? What's your
Yeah.
MOS?
In the Air Force, we have AFSCs, which is our Air Force specialty code, and it's a 2 Alpha 3X3, which is a tactical aircraft maintenance technician or specialist, depending on who you ask. Basically, I'm a crew chief for F-15s.
Nice. F-15s are awesome. You ever get to go up for a ride?
Oh yeah, yeah, I've been up there. Yeah,
Nice,
man.
nice. How many years you got left?
3. I'm done. Like 3 years,
That's
dude.
it.
That's
Huh?
it. I'm
Good.
pulling chucks.
What's great is you already know what you're gonna do. I
Yep.
bet.
Already done deal.
Good. You got your mission in life, which is huge,
Yeah,
man.
man.
It's huge. Recently had a new baby.
Mm-hmm. Yep. She's 5 months.
That's awesome. And so, how many kids do you have now?
4.
Okay, awesome. I love it. I love it. Boys, girls.
Yeah. So 15-year-old boy, 11-year-old girl, 3-year-old girl, 5-month-old girl. So yeah, I got a couple
Nice.
weapons. I'm ready.
I
I'm
love it,
ready for
man.
war.
I love it. I mean, after all of it, I'm serious. Like at the end of the day, that's what it's all about: is spending time with my
Yeah,
family.
man.
And yeah, I've got 6 girls, and
Wow.
all the way from 14 is my oldest daughter, and then all the way down to 18 months. So,
Jeez.
and we've got twins in the middle, and that's when it got
Oh, you
real
got
out of hand. Is
twins?
when
Twin girls?
yeah, and it was just like people are like, "How do you
Oh
do it?" I'm like,
man.
"Man, you don't have a choice, man. You just figure it out and go
Yeah,
do
right.
it."
You're
So
like,
it's
you
cool.
don't. You just survive.
Right on. So, at what point? So you've got a show um, called Life Transformation Radio, and at what point before your show, when did you figure out that just life transformation and that topic was for you?
So I had wrote a book called Decisions: The Power to Overcome Self-Defeating Behaviors. And somebody in there was like, dude, like your life has been transformed by certain decisions that you have made. I said, yeah, to a point, but I was transformed beyond that. Just because you make good decisions doesn't mean that your life is all of a sudden this miraculous, case study where people follow you. Your life is
Right.
transformed by the actions that you take based off of the decisions that you make. So just because you make good decisions, you're like, yep, that was a great decision, made an investment, done deal. You know, you actually have to take the
Right.
action. Okay. And
Yeah.
so, I was talking to a bunch of people and they're like, yeah, man, like your life's been transformed. I was like, it was hard work, man. It was hard. There were things that I had to overcome, but yeah, dude, like my life is completely different, transformed into something that I didn't think was going to happen. I want to have other people like experience this.
Right.
So at the end of my book, I wrote how my life was transformed and what we do now, as a family and what I do now, as a father and husband. And then my pastor in church did a sermon series on my book. And that's when I knew. I was like, like, he says, this is what it's all about.
Right on.
Transformation. This is the moment that we wait for. I'm like, Yeah. And then that's it.
So you're like, I am the doctrine now.
Oh, yeah.
Follow my book. Add it to
Right?
the end of Revelations, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's cool. I've had a few transformational or epiphany moments in my life when it's like, and it's like the world comes together and it's like, I
Yep.
finally figured it out. And it's like, why don't they teach that stuff in 5th grade?
Right?
Why haven't they why haven't we been teaching this stuff all along, And
Yeah.
so,
Where was the stay
I know
away
what
from
that-
her class? You know what I mean? Like, where's those
Right.
classes at? Yeah, don't drink
Yeah.
that. Where's those classes at?
And it's funny, I've got my kids in school now, and I pay attention to what teachers they have and so forth, and it's like, stick with that teacher, and then it's like, we really got to keep our eye on that one. She's got the wrong thing going on.
Yeah.
Don't listen to her.
Yep.
But it's cool. You like to public speak. You like live
Oh,
stuff,
yeah,
right?
man.
I saw recently you were speaking to a bunch of cadets.
Yeah, so I got asked to speak to the Junior ROTC Cadet Ball that brought 3 high schools together. And it was about 200 cadets at this banquet, at this, like military ball, So their dates were in, like prom dresses or whatever. Cadets were in uniform and the instructors and everything. And I'm friends with one of the instructors. He's like, dude, you'd be perfect for this. Like, let's do it. So it was a good time. Yeah, man. It was a real
That's
good
awesome.
time.
That's cool. I saw a clip of it. You posted it on Facebook, and man, you had everybody laughing. I was laughing. You had some great examples and stories that you were telling. It was great.
Thank you.
And I saw a while back. I saw you post. We've been friends for a while,
Yeah.
but I saw you post a while back that it was your dream. That you love speaking. You knew that that's what you want your life to be.
Yep.
And you're like, someday it's my dream to speak at a TEDx.
Yeah.
And then, it wasn't a few months later and boom, there you are, man.
Yeah.
So you go out and do that. So what, man, that's huge. I mean, think about it. That was your dream. You're like, someday
Yep.
you put it out there, and it's like, it really didn't take you that long. I mean, some people, it could take people a lifetime to get to that point, but man, you hit that quick. What was that like? TEDx,
Dude.
man. How'd you get into that? And
So-
what an honor.
Yeah, so a little context, man. So 2009, I became a drill instructor for Air Force Basic Training. And so from 2009 to 2013, man, I just annihilated souls and just like I made it a point. Like, I took it personal. People were like, "Oh my God, it's the chair force. You guys suck," and like whatever. Like, I wanted people
Sure.
coming into the Air Force, right? Like our bus driver hat that we, like the Marines have a cool hat, and like everybody, like, you have the bus driver hat and the tie, and like, so like I wanted people to be like, "Oh, dude, bro, like, you don't even know, like, my drill instructor, like, you don't even know," right? Like, that's what I wanted when we meet different people downrange, right? Because we always, like, we meet these Marines and these soldiers like downrange, and like, "Oh, you're in the Army, like, right?" And we always like make fun of everybody, and they're like,
Right.
"Bro, like," but I wanted to make a point, like, this isn't an easy thing. I mean, you joined the Air Force because you thought it was easy. Welcome to me, And so in my dorm, okay, in the dorm,
Rude awakening.
right? When you walk in, I had a huge sign, and it said, "The beatings will continue until morale improves." Like that. Like,
There you go.
I had that huge
There you
sign.
go.
And so, man, I just made it a point to just
Wasn't that like Johnny Depp, like out of Pirates of the Caribbean or something?
something like that. Yeah.
I think they had that in
Something
there.
like that.
Anyway, carry on. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
so I fell in love. I didn't even like public speaking, but I fell in love with the moment where you're at like Rainbow Week, civilian clothes, Goldilocks comes in with his long flowing blonde hair, and you're just like, "You don't even know," like knife hand chops come out, and the moment weeks later where all of a sudden you can say something to him and you're expecting some ridiculousness, and you hear like a "Yes sir," boom, it's done, and you're like, "Yeah, nothing to yell about." Like, you literally have nothing to yell about. You're like, "Well, go away fast," like, "You're too slow," And so like you keep up this persona, and then all of a sudden they start flocking to you, and like you got them, right? Like, you have these 50 souls in the palm of your hands, and like you control like what happens, and you're molding them and you're building them up, right? That was what got me. A lot of guys, like, they put trainees in freaking dryers, you know, they sexually assaulted some of those females, you know, and 36 people went to prison, right? Out of 400 some odd instructors, 36 got in trouble and went to prison. That's one too many in my book. But for 400 other instructors, you know, or 400 instructors total, you know, we are changing lives. And I've met some of my trainees outside of the military, or outside of, you know, base training or whatever, like inside the military. And dude, they're like, holy crap. Hi. Like, their demeanor changes. Like, that's how you know. 4 years later, I meet one of them and they're like, hi. Like, they don't know what to do. Right? And it's like a switch, man. You're like, yeah? How's your day going? You know? just like messing with them, right? Just messing with them. And they're like, doing good, sir. Like, you know, it could be somebody equal rank. It could be like, you know, whatever. And it was just, it was so great. And I fell in love with that. And if I could take that from basic training and move it to if I could move it to the stage, that's what I want to do. Sure. So I got out in 2013. In 2015, I said, I'm making this a thing. I'm making this a thing. So I said, I want a TEDx talk. I want to speak in Vegas, and I want to speak in Australia. That was in 2015. 2016, wrote the book, and I was like, all right, we're going to make this happen. 2017, I was like, screw this, dude. Like, 3 years. I give myself 3 years. I'm going to put a timetable on it. 3 years. And at the end of 2017, I did it. TEDx talk. Nice. And then January 2018, Vegas. Did back to back.
Wow. So why Vegas? Why Australia?
Because the magic happens in Vegas. You know what I'm saying? Like Chris Angel has a show in Vegas. You know, Dean Martin, the Rat Pack with Frank Sinatra. You know, the Wayne Newton has a show, like the Blue Man Group, like attractions are in Vegas. You know what I mean? So you go to Vegas to see shows. And so people go to Vegas for masterminds and conferences and conventions. And like, I want to go to Vegas, you know, and I did. So
I love it. What about Australia?
Australia, it's the only country I haven't been to. Like, so like I've been to like Asia, like, but I haven't been to China. You know what I'm saying? So been to Japan, got it. Korea, you know, been to the UK, I've been all these other places, but like I haven't been there. And I hear it's like an amazing place. Like a lot of great speakers come from there. And I'm like, let's do this. Plus, you know, I want to kind of, so I said before, like I want to get beat up by a kangaroo, but apparently they have like 12-inch claws. And I'm like, I don't want to die, you know. But, you know, Looney Tunes, like they got, you know, the kangaroo with like the boxing gloves or whatever. I'm like, let's go box a kangaroo. Apparently they can actually kill you. I was like, okay, never mind. We'll just play with some koala bears, you know. So, but I was like, Australia's it, man. Australia's like, for me, like when you get to these three places, I've set the bar to where these three places, you've made it. It's a vindication. Like, I'm enough. So like, not everybody gets on TEDx, and I got denied like 12 times. So, I mean, literally like 12 times I got denied. And then finally just one guy said yes. And I was like, let's do this. And it has almost 9,000 views. My TEDx talk has almost 9,000 views in like, I don't know, a month and a half, 2 months. So once you get on that stage, I mean, you're amongst the greats who have ever been on a TEDx stage or a TED stage. You're associated with, I got a TEDx talk. You're associated with greatness, you know? Yeah. And then when you speak in Vegas, like, dude, you made it to Vegas. Like, no matter what the event is, nobody cares about the event. It's, you know, no, someone's like, well, you know, I was speaking in Oregon, you know, or I was speaking in like, you know, Kansas. Like, when he says, yeah, I was speaking in Vegas, they're like, dude, like, you spoke in Vegas? Like, it's, again, it's like, that's the bar. And then, you know, like I said, I heard that a ton of great, you know, people have come from Australia. It's like, let's do it.
Cool, man. Cool. So you knew you wanted to impact people. Yep. Transformation was a big topic that you love. It makes a big difference in people's lives. When did you decide you wanted to start your own radio show?
Oh,
How'd that come
man.
to be?
So, yeah, back to the pastor. My book got published September 1st of 2016. He did the sermon series shortly after that in, was it like end of October, beginning of November? Yeah. I was just listening, and people it's funny because like I'm in church, right? And he never even told me because there's two services, guys. So we're in first service, and he's like, we're gonna talk today about decisions and transformation. We're like, I like it. I guess that's awesome. He's like, I'm gonna read you something, and just bear with me. And he pulls my book out, like he just goes, and starts reading. My buddies are next to me, and they're like all pointing. So they're like videotaping like him and me, and I'm just sitting there like, oh my gosh, like I'm all starstruck, And he reads like a part of a chapter, about how I was this way and now I'm this way, and how this happened and then this happened, and he's got it like all marked out. He says, ladies and gentlemen, this is what matters, and delivered this sermon. I was like, oh my gosh, right? Well, we ended up serving that particular Sunday in the second service. So I saw him outside, and I was like, dude, are you kidding me? You did a sermon on my book. And he's like, dude, I didn't even know you were here, bro. Okay, I need you in second service. Like, are you serving today? I'm like, yeah, I'm serving. He's like, oh, I need you in service. So we literally sat in second service, and then he had us stand up. And he's like, this is the author. And everybody's like, yeah, like all clapping and stuff. I was like, and he's like, okay, well, they got to go because they got to serve. And now let me do my sales pitch. You got to serve because God said you got to serve. And it was so funny. And then we left, and then he continued on with the same thing he did in the first service. And then he asked to put my book in the bookstore, and I sold like over 50 copies out of the bookstore in the church. I mean, they were always selling out. And I was like, dude, that is like I gave it to the pastor, and I was like, I would love for you to read my book, love for you to read my story. And within a month, he's like, oh my God, I'm doing a series on it, right? If I could have that much impact in a book, like what else can I have an impact on? And I was listening to podcasts all the time anyways. I was listening to speaker podcasts and business podcasts, and my friends had podcasts, and I was being a guest on podcasts. And I was like, you know what? Like, I want to do one. Like, I just want to do one. So, like, I prayed about it, and I was like, what do you think? And, I'm just literally having a conversation kind of like with my internal, like, spiritual self, and I'm like, God, like, I'm going to leave it in your hands, And a couple of days later, I woke up. I was getting ready to put the uniform on. I'm getting ready. I was like, Life Transformation Radio. I'm doing it. Life Transformation. It just hit me. I was like, Life Transformation Radio. I'm doing it. And my wife's like, oh, crap. Like, I get these ideas in my head. I'm like, I'm doing it. It's from the Almighty. I'm doing it. So Life Transformation Radio was born like in December. And then January, I did research and made sure this was what I wanted to do. And then we launched in February of 2017. And I've been doing it a year, heard in 44 countries, or over now. And thousands of weekly listeners. It's a live show. So they can call into the show and talk to the guest. And oh, dude, like Bruce Buffer's been on the show from UFC. He's been on the show. Frank Shankowitz from the Make-A-Wish Foundation's been on the show. Tom Ziegler, who is Zig Ziglar's son, who I look up to like immensely. Even for him to even answer an email from me was like super, super awesome. Greg Reed, who is an author and a keynote speaker. Greg Reed and Sharon Lecter wrote a book called 3 Feet from Gold. He was on my show. I've had people who are I've had sex experts on my show. That was enlightening.
Talk about transformation.
Dude, that was a great show. I think my wife thinks so too. And I think that I've had some amazing guests that, somebody's child is still missing 3 years later, which I could not imagine. But missing 3 years later, and that person now wrote books about it and has a show about it and has a support group for children's families, like the children's been abducted, whatever. So like, just like Mothers Against Drunk Driving got started by the daughter got killed and the mom needed a support system and then made a support system. Now you have MAD. Well, she kind of did the same thing. And what I love about my show is I have people who have gone through these transformational moments because of the situations and decisions and stuff that has happened in their life. That is what makes the show awesome, because it's real, it's raw, it's authentic. It's like, I went through this and now look what I created. Look what happened and look how I was transformed. I heard it said that you delivered by the fire, you're delivered from the fire, or you're just delivered through the fire. And I love hearing stories about being delivered, you know what I mean, and being transformed. And I can't imagine not doing the show, man. I meet so many amazing people.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. So let's shift a little bit into transformation still, but transformation for military and veterans, okay? I mean, it's a big topic because you spend so many years. I mean, military becomes an identity for you. You know who you are. You put on the uniform every day. You know what your objective is. You know, you're clear on what you're supposed to do, what your lane is, what you're trained to do, what your mission is. You're clear on what your lane isn't, what you're not supposed to do, because somebody else is covering that, you know. And it's a great system. It really is. And then all at once, you know, you get out of the military and it's like, boom. And unfortunately, you're probably not going to experience this because you're already clear on something that you want. However, that's not so common. And but the topic of helping people transform is still the same. And so how, in your expertise with your message and transformation, I mean, what things do you have for veterans who are trying to figure out what to do next? And I think there's a big difference between survival mode. You know, you get out of the military and you're like, okay, you know, I got to get a job somewhere and I got to put food on the table. And yeah, sure, it's true. But there's a difference between just doing what you have to do and really finding something that you're passionate about and going after it. You know? So,
I personally, my opinion, I think that after you retire from the military, right? So for retirees, you've done 20 years, you know, whatever. I think that you should not ever have a job ever again. That's just my opinion. I think you should be an entrepreneur or figure out a way to turn your passion into profit. And you can do this by not, you know, like you could be a business owner, you know, and I had this discussion with people, like you could be a business owner or an entrepreneur. You don't have to be both, but you have to have one without the other. You know what I'm saying? Like if you opened a bar and you opened a military bar in a military town, you're not necessarily an entrepreneur. You're just a business owner, you know? But to be an entrepreneur, like to do your own thing and to go out and create this thing that you want to create, like that can become scary for people. So like, oh no, I don't want to, I'll just go to work, and they're happy with that. And I'm happy with that. Like whatever you got to do, but I know the statistics and I hear the stories and I can't get over the fact that 20-year veterans, 20 plus, right? I mean, you've military retired, you know, have a 5-year life expectancy because they just don't know what to do with their life. They just don't have a purpose or a mission, you know, and then they just, within 5 years, you know, they're gone. And I was like, that's not going to happen to me. Like, there's no way. Cause I've already gone down the road of suicide once before. I'm like I'm not going down that road. And so I knew it would take about between like 6 and 10 years to really gain traction, right? To make a dent between 6 and 10 years. So I said, okay, I'm 5 years out in 2016. I'm 5 years out. I'm going to get started. So 2015, I was like, yep, going to be a speaker. You know, this is what I want to do. And so I started, you know what I mean? Every year it's something. Like 2016, I did a book. 2017, I did a show. 2018, I'm ramping up and I'm gaining momentum. That's my word for 2018 is momentum. I'm gaining momentum because that's what I want, right? Yeah. When I tell people that are transitioning, if you do 4 years or 40, doesn't matter. Have a plan before you get out. I know so many people that are like, oh, I'm just getting out. Military sucks. I freaking hate this. I'm out. I'm going to go to school. Blah, blah, blah. And then they get out and they're like, oh, this sucks even worse.
All
Like,
right.
I don't have any money, and I didn't save anything because I was
You didn't have a
I was the
plan.
19-year-old drunk kid, in Vegas, overseas somewhere, whatever I was doing, whatever. I was the military guy, 21, like I'm getting out of the military, like screw you guys. I'm gonna get this amazing job, and then it just doesn't come through. In the Air Force, a lot of the
Right.
crew chiefs, a lot of the maintainers, they will go get jobs at airports because that's what they do. They've been working on airplanes for 4 to 6 years. I might as well just continue in that, get my A&P license, go work at an airport, go be a helicopter, mechanic, something. And that's great for a while until like, yeah, this sucks. Like now I know I got out of the military.
Sure.
No matter where you go,
Sure.
man, that job isn't for everybody. You know.
Right.
So I always tell people, like, man, you got to have a side hustle. Like in the military, you have to have a side hustle. You have to have something to break up the monotony of the wake up at 06, go do PT, then, go to work, then do your job, then come home, then, see the wife, see the kids, hang out, and then go to bed. And then wake up, go to PT. It's just like an everyday routine. Like there's nothing that's going to shake up your life. But always have a side hustle. I always advocate for that. Have a side hustle. Even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, just do something. We used to buy storage units at auction. That was the second business that I built on active duty. I actually was doing it for fun. We found so many cool things. We ended up opening an antique store. A hobby turned into something amazing, like a thrift store or an antique store. So just find something that you're passionate about and then see if you can make money from it. And eventually that will take you down that road of, what, I can do this out of the military. You know what I mean? I can do this. So always start with a side hustle, and your military pay can fund, the hobby, the whatever it is, and then once you're out and you're going to get out, you just take that over, kind of a full-time thing. And if you want to get a job, but make sure that you plan this thing out. Because if you don't, you're going to be sleeping on somebody's couch or
Mom's basement.
or in the back of a hearse somewhere.
Yeah. Yep. It's amazing because one thing I love about the military is we just learn to get the job done. In college you get book smart, but in the military we learn to go out and get the job done. Yeah. It's the stuff you gotta do.
Yep.
And it's what's interesting is then that's where I see a lot of guys get stuck coming out of the military is because they're like, oh, cool, I want to write a book, but I don't know how. And all at once, these guys that were capable of going around the world and accomplishing extraordinary missions are like, I'm afraid to start a book, or I started a book and I never finished it, or yeah, that'd be cool to have a podcast, but I don't know about podcasts. It's like, dude, you always did what you needed to do to figure it out and make it happen in the military. Just do that on the outside. I see guys that are like, I really want to start a business, but I'm scared to. Well, sure, weren't you scared when you were getting shot at in combat? Starting a business,
Right.
it's not that scary, and you have to take risks. Great, you took risks in the military all the time. And bottom line is you've got the goods to go make it happen, but you just got to make it happen. You got people, I get a couple pings a month from guys that are like, I've got a master's in business, and I've been applying to different places, and it's like, well, what do you want? Well, I really want to start my own business. Well, then do that.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you want? Do that.
Yep.
That's the hardest thing is like figuring out what you want. And that's why I love your message. Bringing that back into this is like, yeah, there's the grind, there's survival mode, but yeah, just really figuring out what you want is the big key.
Yeah.
I call that your own personal high value target.
Oh, sure.
But
There's two reasons why the veterans just, man, the military does not like independent thinkers, especially combat veterans. Like, you're not paid to think. Go in that building, kick the door in, right?
Do it.
I mean, you're trained
do it.
muscle. I could do this blindfolded, right? You have your fire teams already set up. Like, who's going to breach. Who's going left. Who's going right. Tap them, I'm going, right? Tap and move, right? I mean, we have it set up to where it's like even the guy that you look at and you go, I cannot believe I'm going to run this building with this guy. Like, what I'm saying? Like, there's always that one dude on the team. You're just like, God, freaking, And I've been on a lot of convoys with people, even the Air Force, bro. Like literally, like I'm in the Air Force, and yes, I've been on convoy duty with the Army,
Right.
and like
Right.
it's not like back in the 80s and 90s where it's like, oh no, we don't want the Air Force, like leave those guys over there, and the Air Force is like, ew, icky guns, icky, right? Like it's not like that anymore. Like we get our OCPs and we're downrange. We're wearing the same uniform as like everybody else. Like we're on convoys, and I've done a lot of that stuff. But
We did. Let me interrupt right
Yeah.
there. So I flew Blackhawks.
That's cool.
And occasionally we would have guys, Air Force group in the back, same rucks, same weapons, everything else. Fly them out to a target, drop them off, and I'm like, one day I sat down with them. I said, "This is kind of backwards. How come I'm flying and you're like packing rocks? But we got this backwards." But anyway, carry on.
That's funny.
Yeah, everybody does it. Anyway,
awesome.
carry on.
So yeah, man, like they don't like independent thinkers. You know what I mean? Like we're not out there, literally even in the Air Force. The most laid back. We're in our swimming pools and deployments. I have never been on a deployment and like not been in a tent. Like I've not been on a convoy, from one place to another to go pick up an aircraft that crashed or whatever. Have the Army with support, with ground support. You know what I mean? And like not like slept in the vehicle or like under it or whatever. Like I've experienced some of that
Right.
stuff, but our finance people aren't. Like, I mean, they're not doing that stuff. You know what I mean? So
Right.
none of us, I don't care who you are, not even Air Force, is going to go out to this location and like, hey, we need to get this aircraft. Like, well, do we really need to do it this way? Like, I could figure this out because I could do this. And really think we should. This ain't a democracy. Like, shut the hell up and go do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
When you get out of the military, you're by yourself. There's
Right.
nobody telling you, hey, you need to do this. Hey, you need to do this. Hey, make sure that this happens, and make sure you're like, okay. Like, there's none of that. You have to be free
Right.
and independent thinker. That is why a lot of people fail, because they're used to do this. You're here at this time. 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 And a lot of people, man, from like basic training to tech school, you give them a little leeway and they just fall apart. And then from tech school all the way to like the first duty station, they get to the duty station and they fall apart. They get an alcohol related incident, or they get into a fight, or something happens. Like, what were you thinking? Like, cause you just gave this guy a crap load of freedom after not a year of freedom. You just give this guy like, do whatever you want now. You're free to do whatever you want. Like,
Right.
just looks at the world in a different way. So I always tell people, like, as soon as you figure out what you want to do, find somebody who's doing it on a level that you want to do it at, living the life that you want to live. Hook up with that person, whether it be a mentor,
Yep.
maybe a friend. Like if I was like, man, I really want to do a podcast. Like, who do I know? Like Nick, dude, he's doing a podcast. Like, I'm just gonna hook up with that dude. Like, I need to get with this guy because he's doing a show. You know what I mean? And so I always tell people, like, dude, hook up, like still like build your teams just like you would, in the military, like build a team, and I've got a bunch of veterans, that are on my team and I'm on their team. And like we call it the board of directors. Like they're on my board of directors, and they're the guys who are guiding me. You know what I mean? I'm totally not doing this alone, but everybody tries to do it alone. Oh, I can do this, and I'm the veteran. Hoorah, and then,
Right.
dude, it's not. There's a reason why we do team building so many times. There's a reason why on an airplane you have to put your mask on first, then help somebody else, right?
Right.
Like, there's
Yep.
all kinds of reasons for that. And so, number one, you're by yourself, right?
Yep.
And number two, you're an independent thinker now, when before you weren't. So now you have to think on your feet. Now, and I'm not saying that they don't. I mean, I've been plenty of times where you had to improvise, but who's improvising? It's not the guy at the door improvising. It's somebody in a vehicle or somebody down here. He's got the map. He's got what? He's like, oh, stop. We're not going that way. We're going this way. We're like, okay. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
When we're out there fixing airplanes, in Afghanistan, we're fixing airplanes to go drop bombs on target, and something happens with this airplane, we have to check in with somebody like, hey, this isn't working. Either I can do this or this. What do you want me to do? And they're like, what do you think? I'm like, well, let me, if I can do this. All the time, it's like, hey, go fix this. Go put this in there. Go put this part. Go fix this way. Go grab this guy. make it happen. You're like, yes, sir. And so we have direction 24/7. You don't have direction outside of the military. It's here's life, figure it out.
Right.
So
Yeah, and so yeah, you're right on. It's not only military. I mean, military is really good at what they
Yeah.
do, but in the civilian world, after 5th grade, 6th grade, after 11th
Yeah.
grade, 12th grade, everybody does it.
Yep.
And they're like, what do I do now?
Yep.
Go to college. And then they get done with college, like, what do
Yep,
I do
exactly.
now? And, 60-70% of kids that graduate from college can't even get jobs
Yep.
because it's like, well, what do I do now? And now they're out back and living with mom's basement again and that kind of
Yep.
stuff. And but no, we see it definitely with military guys. And what's crazy, one thing that I try to encourage veterans with is just to see you've got the goods. If you have a mission, you've got the skills to go execute. And because you can take a plan, you can read a situation, you can fill in the gaps, you can improvise, you can do all those kind of things. But it's just like that seems to be the biggest hurdle. What we've been talking about here is just figuring out what you want to do, because
Yep.
everybody else has always placed it in front of you, and that's kind of like that for everybody. It's not necessarily anybody's fault. It's just what everybody's used
Right.
to, and so it's the hardest thing to just get guys thinking about what do I want and giving yourself permission. Permission's a big
yeah.
part of it. But what's cool is once you figure out that tough piece, you do have the goods to just go after.
Oh, absolutely.
It. And it's not rocket science, and you'll figure out what you need to know.
Yep.
But yeah, I love it, man. I love it. I appreciate your feedback and great advice. Anything else that you would share for our veterans, military guys getting out?
Man, yeah, just you gotta have a plan. And the TAPS classes that you go to, some of them are okay. A lot of them I hear are just like garbage. You know what I mean? They're like, I didn't learn anything. Whatever. Like,
Take an extra fork, stick
Right?
your fork in your axe.
Yeah.
That's what it's like.
so what I always tell them, like people who are transitioning out, like, hey, I'm getting out, and there's a couple guys that work for me that are out like at the end of this month, and I always ask them like, do you have a plan? It's like, well, I think I'm like, oh hell no. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna sit down and we're gonna figure this out. Like we're literally gonna figure this out right now. And so I know guys like, oh, I'm gonna get a job with Boeing and Lockheed. A lot of Air Force guys do that. They get hired right into Boeing. They get hired right into Lockheed, because that's who builds the airplanes. They're a cop outside of the military because there were security forces inside. So I'll just go do what I was doing in the military. And a lot of guys, that's what they do. They do 4 to 6 years, especially like air traffic controllers. Those guys will go and do 4 to 6 years, get their certification in the Air Force, and then go out of the military and make $100,000. Working at an airport, like doing the same thing they were doing, making $100,000. I'm like, Jesus. So I always tell them, like, have a plan. Do not get out. And I hound these guys too. I'm like, so what'd you do? And let's figure this out. And like, whatever, like to the point where they're like, dude, leave me alone. And I'm like, no. Right. So man, yeah, you got to have at least at a minimum a 1-year plan. Like, what does your 1-year plan look like? Where are you working? Where are you applying to? And I just see it so many times, like, and track these guys on Facebook, your Facebook friends, and then they get out and you're like, all right, he's doing this. And he's like, life sucks, like 4 months in. And you're like, got an instant message. I'm like, what happened to your plan? Yeah, it didn't work out. What happened to the plan B and the plan A and X and Z and, whatever, so.
Yeah, the same guys aren't excelling in the military either. They're just going through the system.
Yep.
In both sides, inside or outside, it's what you make of it. You can carve out your own career and your own path, and you have to go after it. It takes work and fortitude and persistence, and you can get anywhere that you want. And it's the same. So the same guys are in the military, just they're stuck there.
Yeah,
not progressing like they should, and
That's
hitting
true.
the minimums. And,
just collected a paycheck.
Same things apply. Yep. Cool. Well, I will post some links to your. I'll put up a page with your information and post some links to your podcast, your radio show, and your book and whatever else, because I think some people might be interested in your take on life transformation and the awesome stuff that you share. Appreciate you coming on and your inspiration of knowing what you want to do. I love your energy, man. It's great. And just you're doing what you love, and that's awesome, man. Just out helping people, and appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on the show, man. You rock.